Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. In this one, we're going to be doing Marvel Rivals Season 1 tier list video, and we're going to do it just like we did for the Season 0. So we're going to start with bans, support, DPS, and tank classes. We're going to do top 3 for each role, and then we'll go into the actual tier list as well. But this is going to be the more like educational side of the video, I guess. And this is mostly for people that are, trying to play ranked and all that kind of stuff. And just kind of want to see like what's kind of being picked, banned, and all that kind of jazz. So I'm currently in like GrandMaster 2. I play mostly in like GrandMaster lobbies, trying to push for that Celestial grind, but I also talked with some of my Celestial friends, and I kind of found that the bans are practically the same as they are in Grandmaster as well. And so this is just kind of like what I've seen, what I've observed in my lobbies, and what I've personally also had success with. So let's go ahead and get right into it. To start us off, we have bans. So we're going to have Cloak and Dagger first. I think Cloak and Dagger is the best healer in the game. For a couple reasons. One, they buffed her. They gave her another dash on her ult. So she, instead of having 3 dashes now, she has 4. I don't think she needed that buff, but they gave it to her. I'm a Cloak and Dagger main or a support main, so I'm not going to complain. So that's one thing. And then the second is she just gets the most healing in the game right now out of all the healers. In fact, I have like a rule of thumb where if you are Cloak and Dagger, you shouldn't really be getting out healed by other healers unless you're getting out healed by the other enemy Cloak and Dagger. Of course, like it just depends on the circumstance. But no, she has the most healing in the game. She has a lot of AoE healing, right? Her autos, her E, and her bubble, all they all AoE heal. And then on top of that, her ult just has so much healing that you can also stack up. But I think it's like 200 or 220 HP per second, and you have 4 lines of that too. So because of that extra line, people can kind of follow the ult through, stay on the extra line, and just get even more healing. In fact, there's like a stat. If you pull up the stat screen, you look at like the bottom right, you can see how much healing came from your ult out of all your healing that game. And a lot of times it's like over 10, 15k or whatever. So like you're just getting so much healing from that ult, and tag that with all of your abilities, it's just so much. So she has a lot of util, a lot of healing. She's the best healer in the game in my opinion. And yeah, there's not much more that needs to be said about that. So next up we have Storm. So Storm is probably the best DPS in the game right now. I'll throw up a list, like they did buff her, and I'll throw up something on the top right that kind of shows you the buffs that they gave her this season. But pretty much the buffs that they gave her worked because she went from being not really picked that much. I still think she was actually decent last season, but you had to be a really good Storm. But she ended up getting picked, ended up not getting picked that much to getting picked a lot, like pretty much all the time, or permabanned here this season. So the thing about Storm is that first she does a lot of damage. Okay, she has like range damage, she has close range damage, whatever it is. She just has a lot of damage. She has good team ups. But then the second thing is she has her ult, and her ult's really, really good at just kind of clearing a field. You pretty much like, as long as you're against a good Storm player who's not like messing up their ult, which trust me, I've seen a lot of Storm players mess up their ult. As long as you're against a good Storm player, the thing about her ult is that it pretty much cleans house. It clears the field, and the only way to really stop it is one, if you're not like super hard grouped against it, which the second you hear that voice line, everybody immediately run for the hills or like in separate directions. But the second thing too is that you can just easily kind of counter it with the support ult, but you need to waste a support ult on it as well. And Storm, from my experience, gets ult up really, really fast. In some cases, even faster than supports get their ults up. It really just kind of depends. But overall this season, she's had very, very good performance in a lot of games. She multi-kills like crazy, more than any of the other DPSs in my opinion. So she's going to be up here for the bans. Next up, we have Wolverine. So Wolverine is a tank killer. He's a tank shredder. They pretty much made him tankier this season with his buffs. They give him more HP, and I think they also like kind of give him more damage resistance as well. But they gave him more HP, and so they made him tankier. That with his passive, he's going to be a very tanky DPS. And pretty much Wolverine's whole goal is to abduct a tank, right? And then kind of bring it back to the back line, or he can abduct anybody, but a tank in particular. And pretty much him and the team shred and kill that tank, and then you push up. And so that's Wolverine's whole game plan, and he seems to be very effective at it this season because this is another character that's pretty much banned every game. So Cloak and Dagger doesn't get banned every game. I think she gets banned in some games. In fact, Luna gets banned more than she does, and I'll tell you why in a second. Well, why I think so in a second. But Storm and Wolverine get banned pretty much every single game. So I don't really see these characters let through too much, but when I do see them let through, I understand why they get banned, if that makes sense. So they're just really good at what they do. Lastly, we have Luna. So I actually personally think Cloak and Dagger is a better ban than Luna is because, like I said before, I think Cloak and Dagger is actually the best healer in the game currently. But Luna, I think, still gets banned out more than she does because Luna is a big ult bot. So earlier I said Cloak and Dagger, she has about 4 dashes. Each dash lasts 5 seconds. So if you play every single dash to its maximum potential, you should get about a 20-second ult. in there, which is going to be the longest ult out of any support ult. Luna's ult's about 12 seconds. But Luna's ult being 12 seconds is going to be longer than all the other support ults. Su's ult is going to be 8 seconds. Mantis ult, I believe, is also 8 seconds. So when you talk about these big support healing ults, Luna ult's going to be the second most, right? And plus, Luna ult, you can move around, all that kind of jazz with. So Luna is like mostly an ult bot, I think, still this season. They didn't really change anything besides nerfing her like spam, like the scroll wheel spam. So you can't like infinitely spam switch between stances anymore. You can, but there's just like a 0.5 second interval between the two now, I believe. So that's the only thing they nerfed about her, but she does, like, I don't know why, but for some reason this season, she feels like she doesn't heal as much. Now, they didn't say that in the notes, at least not the version I read, which is on their website, but it just feels like they, like, touched her healing. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's kind of like what it feels like. If you guys experience that, let me know, because I don't know, it just feels like they touched her healing. Regardless, though, she's mostly banned right now, I think, because she's just a massive ult bot. That's hands down the biggest thing, right? She has one of the longest ults in the game. She can kind of counter almost all these other alts, and it's just huge. And so moving on, let's go to the support class. So top 3, of course, we're going to have these 3 characters. A couple of these I just went over, so we'll just kind of go over Sue since I just went over these 2. Sue is new to this season, so she's going to be, one of 2 new characters to season 1, which is great. And I believe they're adding the other 2 Fantastic Four characters like halfway through the season, which is going to be cool. But Sue, I think, is going to be a top 3 healer, and a lot of people might disagree with me. They might say like, oh, what about Loki? Like, Loki's going to be a top. Completely understand that. I think for a lot of people, Loki is in the top 3 when it comes to healers. For me, it's going to be Sue. And the reason why is because I think Sue has some of the highest healing. I think actually outside of Cloak and Dagger, she's the best. When it just comes to like pure healing, just pure healing numbers, I think actually Sue is a bit better than Luna because her autos. Now, it might be close, by the way. Don't quote me on that. But I think for me personally, she's better than Luna when it comes to healing because her autos go through people, right? They're like boomerangs. So they go through people, they come back, but each time they do that, you go through multiple people, so there is no limit to how many people her autos go through. But each time you do that, it heals them for 40. So with one auto, you can heal somebody for 80 HP because it's 40 in and then 40 back, right? And so you can heal pretty much like a whole bunch of allies that are grouped together. You can just spam heal them, and it's actually insane how much you're healing them. You can also get your ult charge up really, really fast, which is something I kind of forgot to mention earlier with Cloak and Dagger, is that she has the fastest ult charge as well. So if you look on their website, you can kind of see how much energy each ult takes, and Cloak and Daggers takes like by far the least amount out of all the ults. I think like Luna's is like 4K, but C&D's is like 3,400. So if they are going to nerf her in the future, I think that's one thing that they touch, is making her ult come up a little bit slower than it currently does. But in any case, let's go back to Sue. So Sue's autos are going to heal for a ton. She has a lot of utility in her kit, right? So like healing aside, her utility is going to be insane. She has a pull that she can literally start fights with, or pushes that she can pretty much disrupt fights with, right? Like think about pushing Strange ult away or pushing Wolverine off his ult, those kinds of things, right? So like she can do a lot with her kit. And on top of that, she has a shield. She can place it on stationary targets like Punisher. Her shield, aside from being able to heal and absorb damage, is actually really good if you can use it well. Really good at blocking really big ults like Iron Man ult or Magneto ult, those kinds of things. Like if you time it correctly, you can block those ults and just absorb the damage, which is insane. So she's going to be really, really good from that standpoint. And then finally we have her ult. Now, I actually don't think Sue ult is, I'm not going to say bad. I don't think Sue ult is as good compared to Cloak and Daggers and Luna's ults. Like I think these 2 ults are way, way better than Sue ult. But Sue's ult is still going to be a what you would consider to be like a heavy or big support ult, right? It's going to practically make everybody inside it unkillable to a certain extent. It doesn't have as much healing as like, or it doesn't have as high of a healing rate as like Luna or C&D does. But pretty much like they're going to be unkillable for the most part. And it makes like everybody inside of it invisible. It slows the enemy. So it's a massive debuff for the enemy. It's hard for the enemy healers to heal people that are inside because they're invisible, so they can't really see them as well. Just their like projections. And so it's going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as other support ults. So I think that's kind of where she struggles, because these ults last longer. So when it comes to like countering other support ults, for me, it doesn't come to like how much does your support ult do? It mostly comes down to like endurance, right? How long does it last for? Because it doesn't matter that Sue ult can make people invisible, slower, whatever. That doesn't matter as long as Luna can keep everybody alive inside that ult for 12 seconds and then some, right? Because Sue ult is 8 seconds, Luna ult's 12 seconds. So like you're getting that 4-second difference too. Like Luna still has ult up afterwards. So that's kind of where I think Sue ult struggles a little bit. It's going to be the same amount of time as Mantis Ult is. So maybe that's something that they buff in the future. But everything else about our kit's going to be really, really good. So I would say that Sue is a top 3 healer. I'd say in this order, Cloak and Dagger is number 1, Sue is number 2, and then Luna's number 3. That's kind of how I would put it. Maybe you might do it differently. That's completely fine. But like from my experience playing this season, like these two in particular are the characters that I can really do a ton with. So next up we have DPS. DPS, we're going to have Bucky, Storm, and Wolverine. So we already went over Storm and Wolverine, so not really going to go over them again. But Bucky, I think, is going to be like, if these two weren't in the game, Bucky would be the best DPS right now. Bucky, I think, is absolutely insane. First of all, he's got great util, right? You hook people, pull them in, and you can, for some reason, hook multiple people. Like it's AoE. I don't know. Beats me. I don't know why that's a thing. In any case, though, he gets an AoE hook. He does a ton of damage with his gun. He's got a great team up with Rocket, right? Same thing with Punisher. If Rocket like gives him infinite ammo, faster fire rate, and all that kind of jazz, like it can do a lot, it can go a long way. But the other thing too is that his ult, I think, is really, really good right now. I mean, his ult's never been bad, but I mean, come on now, it's like the face of Rivals, right? Again. But in any case, though, the thing about him is that his ult, like, is just so impactful in fights. It feels like if I have a good Bucky on my team, it honestly feels like I can't lose. Or if I'm against a really good Bucky, it feels like I just want to throw up the surrender vote because I can't win. This character's ult just can hard win a fight. It lasts for so long. It's like 6 or 8 seconds between intervals. It's insane. And if you are into a character like Loki, which a lot of people think is going to be a top 3 support character, you just reset all of his clones. Like that's what you do. I've had so many games where I have a Loki on my team, if we're say running triple support, and he's just feeding the enemy Bucky ult charges, and it just ends up like being a detriment to us rather than something that helps us out, because like Bucky's just able to reset time and time again. So I think Bucky's just really good in this meta right now. He does a ton of damage, has a lot of util, especially for a DPS character, and that's pretty much the bare bones of it. And then finally we have tank. So my top 3 tanks, best tank in the game right now, Magneto. In fact, this tank, I sometimes throw up a ban. Now, some people are like, why are you banning Magneto? Like, we got to ban all these other characters. No, listen. This character gets played like every single game. I think he is S tier. I'm sorry to spoil, but he is going to be an S tier for a couple reasons. The first is he's really, really good into the current meta support. So earlier I said that Cloak and Dagger is the best support in the game, in my opinion. Well, Magneto is a really, really heavy counter to this character, because while she's ulting, she kind of gets rooted in place for a second, right? So if she ults, she has that interval time where she's just sitting there for a second, and then she ults again, right, with her dash. During that time, Magneto literally throws up his ult, charges it, and has the easiest time killing Cloak and Dagger with his ult. And you see this all the time, almost every single game. And it makes it go to the point where it's like, I don't want to play Cloak and Dagger anymore. Just give me Luna so I can actually like survive. I think he can still one-shot Luna in her ult. I could be wrong about that because I haven't been one-shotted yet. I think he can. But it's a lot harder to. Plus, Luna's moving around. And so, like, of course, like, if you're not at the direct impact radius, like, the damage gets reduced on the outer end of Magneto ult, right? Just like a lot of other ults in this game, too. So, so I might switch to someone like Luna because I'm tired of getting Magneto ulted. He's really good in the Cloak and Dagger. Now, if Cloak and Dagger wasn't ulting, then she actually kind of counters Magneto because you just right-click Magneto ult and you're fine, right? So that's like the funny part about it. But because if you're against a good Magneto, because he can one-shot Cloak and Dagger in her ult, it almost feels like she can never get her ult off. So that's why I think Magneto's really good. The other thing, too, is his bubble. So if the enemy has Magneto, hopefully you guys have a Magneto, and your Magneto can just shield Cloak and Dagger, and then you can be done with it. Sounds simple enough. Never happens to me. In fact, I'm always against Magneto, and I never get a Magneto on my team. Feels like nobody knows how to play Magneto when they're with me, so I don't know what that's all about. And then, of course, too, he can shield against Wolverine. So Wolverine's just going to be very good in the tanks. I wouldn't say Magneto's a counter to Wolverine, but he's very good to Wolverine in the sense that he can shield somebody, which makes them CC immune out of Wolverine dash. And also, too, if they land or if Wolverine grabs him, then he can just kind of shield himself and absorb a lot of extra damage as well. So Magneto's going to be a top tank right now because I think he's very good into a lot of the top support and DPS picks. That's my main reasoning for it. Secondly, we have Groot. Groot, I think, is really, really good in support. And as I said earlier, we're in a triple support meta. Groot walls aren't anti-heal, but they kind of act like anti-heal if you think about it, because if you throw up a Groot wall, the healer's healing somebody, and then you wedge a Groot wall between them. They can't heal that person because of the wall, so they have to reposition, go around, and heal them. In that time, you guys can burst down and kill that person or make them super, super weak. So that's a big thing. Also, Groot just has a lot of really good maps right now, I think. I mean, in general, he has a lot of really good maps. Not like anything changed, but I think Roach has a lot of really good maps. He does a ton of damage. I think his best map is Yggdrasil Path in Convoy. In Convoy in particular, I think those are Groot's like best maps because there's a lot of tight corridors, a lot of narrow passages that you have to push through, and Groot walls, of course, can block those off, making it hard to push. But for the most part, yeah, a ton of damage. He has what's as close to anti-heal as you can possibly get in this game so far. And yeah, I mean, he's just gonna be really good at into like meta supports. You can like block off C and D, kind of screw up her ult. You know what I mean? Same thing with Luna ult. For some reason, like Luna, even though it appears and shows the circle going underneath Groot wall, she can't actually heal past the wall. So if you like block off Luna, trap her in, or just block her off from her team, you can actually kill those people before Luna can get around the wall and heal them with her ult. So overall, going to be a super solid pick. And lastly, we have Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange actually got some nerfs this season. I think he got a nerf to his like shield recovery and some like damage nerf to I guess like radius scaling or something like that. I'll have the thing up so you guys can see. But in any case, though, even though he got nerfed a little bit, I still think he's a top 3 tank. He still does a ton of damage. His auto cancel with his melee is still going to be really good, and his ult, of course, is still going to be game changing when it comes to fights because he can literally stun everybody. And the same also goes for porting. There's been a lot of games that have won or lost because of a Strange kind of porting in and being able to make plays with him and his team. So for the most part, these are going to be the 3 tanks. It doesn't mean any of these characters are bad by any means, but if I was going to rate like 3 characters for each role, this is kind of where I would put them for the top 3. So these are going to be the top 3. Those are my reasonings for them. Disagree, agree with it, that's completely fine. This is just kind of like what I've noticed in my games, what's been working for me, what's been working against me as well, like what I hate playing against and all that kind of jazz. So let's go ahead and get on to the actual tier list. All right, guys, welcome to the S through F portion of the tier list, and we just have 2 characters, Black Widow and Jeff, and that's all we need. No, I'm just playing. Let's go ahead and get to the actual one, though. Okay, here's the actual tier list. Not messing with you guys this time. We have kind of a lot to unpack here. And also, too, I reserve the right to change any of these characters as I see fit, as I'm explaining, because sometimes I'm just like, wait a minute, this makes more sense. Let me just put it over here. So first off, we have S, which I think are just OP characters. I kind of explain what each tier means right here so you guys can see. But Cloak and Dagger, Magneto, and Storm already went over those characters in the previous section, so I'm not really going to re-go over them. If you didn't watch the previous section, just take my word for it, they're broken. If you want to know why they're broken, watch the previous section. Here we have Excellent, went over these characters. Punisher's, okay, so Punisher we didn't go over. Punisher is another one, just like Bucky, which I think is very good, right? He's got a lot of mid-range damage. He's got very good close range damage when he whips out his shotgun, and his ult makes him seem actually really broken. When he's ulting and you're like getting pocketed by like say a Luna ult or a Cloak and Dagger ult, or just heals in general, and then you have Rocket ult team up too, you feel literally unstoppable. You can kill the whole lobby. In fact, if you have like Rocket power up, you can kill Luna through her ult, I'm pretty sure. So he's gonna feel really, really good. I think he's excellent right now. No reason not to go Punisher. I think he's overall a really good pick. And I will say this, I'll just skip to Rocket real quick. There's a lot of debate around Rocket right now, okay? I see it all the time. I know a lot of people have made videos on like why they hate Rocket. Rocket's bad, no, Rocket's good, whatever the case. I think Rocket is the turn off your brain character. So if people are getting into this game, they're like, who should I play where I don't have to try? Just play Rocket, right? I will say this though, team up aside, I think Rocket is actually pretty decent. I think he's an average pick. And I do think on some maps, he's very good. And in some cases, he can be very good, especially when it comes down to Convoy. If you're on defense and you are on that first point, so that first objective, the enemy attacking spawn is very close to it because it's the first point. But you as a defender, your walk back typically is pretty long. It depends on the map. But typically it's a pretty long walk back, and those are the maps I actually really like playing Rocket on, because if somebody just gets picked for some stupid reason, instead of taking like 30 seconds to come back over, I can literally have them back up instantly. And I think that's really, really, really good. Also, too, Rocket's healing, I mean, his healing numbers are a little inflated end game because he doesn't have the biggest burst healing, right? He more has like sustained healing over time. But his healing isn't that bad as long as he's paired with like It's bad by itself, but he's not bad if he has like another big healer with him, like Luna or Sue or like Cloak and Dagger, those kinds of healers. If you have like Rocket Atom, no, stop it right there, right? But if you have like Cloak and Dagger with Rocket, the healing I think should be fine. A lot of people hate that he doesn't have like a big support ult, and I think that's probably like the biggest issue, which is why he's not like an overpowered character. Or like under like these top tiers, especially in domination. Stop picking Rocket in domination, please. Unless like you're with a team up, stop it. Convoy, I can kind of see it. Domination, I need my big support ults, man. Stop it. But if you do have the Punisher team up, especially Punisher and Bucky team up, I think Rocket goes up to like excellent. I think he goes up to A. It really just depends if you have the team up or not with him. If you don't, then like he's gonna go back down to average, right? So that's kind of where I would place Rocket. There's the Rocket debate. That's where I think Rocket is right now. And I kind of hate it too because I had like specific areas and maps where I would pick Rocket on last season and nobody complained. Like everybody was like, yeah, this is fine, whatever. But ever since this whole like Rocket debate came up, I pick Rocket on the same maps, the same areas, and everybody's like, please don't pick Rocket. So it kind of like, because other people were messing up with him, now it ruins me, you know? Like people don't want me playing Rocket. But in any case, that's where he's going to be. Hulk is another one. I think Hulk is going to be actually, should I put him under B? No. We'll keep Hulk under excellent. I think Hulk's going to be really, really good. His Gamma Shield is kind of like a little bit like Magneto Shield, where like it just can block a lot of damage and immune people from CC and all that kind of jazz. So I think that's really good. I think great Hulks are just a pain in the ass to deal with. And of course, he has the team up with Iron Man, which I think is actually under A tier right now, and I'll explain why in a second. Actually, no. He's under B tier. But if he is teamed up with Hulk, I think he's actually under S. I think he's OP. But let me actually explain Iron Man. Let me put him under B. See, look, we already changed something. The reason why I think Iron Man's really good, and this kind of goes back to the previous section when I was talking about how Magneto's good because he can one-shot people with his ult, especially healers. Iron Man can do the same thing with his ult. And that's why I don't understand why he's not getting picked up as much right now. Cloak and Dagger ults, Luna ults, you literally just Iron Man ult and you kill him. Especially in the triple support. Now, I understand that his base kit might not feel the strongest without, the Gamma Ray team up with Hulk, but I've seen people make it work. I mean, I had Iron Man literally a couple days ago. It was a pretty good lobby. I had him a couple days ago. We didn't have a Hulk team up. I was questioning it, and he was hitting like 4-man ults, right? So it didn't really feel like he was doing much. But then when he got down to his ults, he was just canceling out the other healer ults, and we were just winning the game. So I do think he's still in a good state. It might even be excellent, but like I'm gonna put him in good. I'm not gonna put him as high as excellent without the Hulk team up. But that's kind of why I still think he's still relevant even without that team up. Already went over Strange. Already went over Sue. Loki, I think, is gonna be extremely good right now. Loki has a really good amount of burst healing, but he doesn't have like consistent healing, I guess, if that makes sense, across the board, which is why his healing numbers tend to be lower. But he's really good against dive, right, because of his left shift. And his left shift kind of acts like a mini support ult whenever like they have something big. It's like a mini support ult for a few seconds, which is great. And he can just turn into anybody else and do crazy stuff. So good Lokis on your team are going to be insane. The problem with Loki is that last statement, good Lokis on your team. I haven't played too much Loki. I'm okay with them, but like even I'm not the best with them. Most people that I play with or even against aren't really that good with Loki. I'm going to be completely honest. And there are a few, I think, that have been like really good. I'm like, wow, this guy's great with Loki. And you can see it. Most people aren't that good with him. So I think if you're playing him at a super high level, like really, really good right now, I think he's under excellent. Some people would put him under S tier. Completely fine. You could do that. I think he's under excellent. My other issue with Loki, and I said this in the previous section, is if you're bad with him and you're literally letting Bucky reset his ult charge off of Loki clones, I'm not going to be having a good time with you. I'm going to want you to switch off Loki. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's like if you're into a Bucky, it can be a pretty troublesome for your team because of the alt reset. Okay, let's see. Groot, we went over Magic. Magic's actually been on the come up recently. I've actually been seeing a lot of Magics in my games as of like the last 3 or 4 days, and she has been performing really, really, really well. I don't know exactly what it is about her. She just randomly appeared out of nowhere. Maybe somebody said something and everybody's like, let's just play Magic. But she's been performing super well. I don't play her. So this is just mostly from an observation experience. But I'll tell you right now, as someone who hates getting dove, like healers hate getting dove, unless they're triple healer, I guess. But as somebody that hates getting dove, Magic seems to dive really, really well right now. She has a lot of damage, a lot of survivability, and she kind of is up there for DPS. So that's why I have her under A. Excellent. She's just really hard to deal with. Moon Knight is one that is interesting because I was actually thinking about putting him under B, but I have him under A because his ult, first of all, he spam gets his ult, right? Second of all, they buffed his ult, so they increased the radius. And I don't know if this is fully true, but somebody told me that there's a bug in the game right now where Moon Knight's ult is doing double the damage per hit that it should be. So somebody was like, yeah, his ult should be doing like 75 damage per hit, and it's doing like 150 or something like that. I mean, I die in his ult regardless, so it's hard for me to see that. Maybe if you guys know anything, you can like put it down in the comments. Not sure. But Moon Knight is very good right now. His ult's massive. He's good at like killing other supports in their ults. So like for example, Sue ults, you can literally just drop a Moon Knight ult in Sue ult, and the enemy team has to play out of that ult because Sue ult cannot tank that ult. Like, and it's stationary too, so like they have to get out of it or like go to an edge where it's not at, where the Moon Knight ult isn't. So I just think his ult's extremely good right now for the current meta. Namor is really good at anti-dive, right? Especially with the team up with Luna. He gets that ice turret, which really helps with the dive, and he does a lot of damage, easy to heal with his invulnerability, and his ult kind of one-shot. So the theme here is that if your ult is one-shotting, you're going to be at the top of the list for me, or like near the top of the list. So big thing with his ult, especially with like Groot team-ups, because I think Groot's a top support right now. I mean, honestly, Groot can combo with anybody and make him look good, but like Groot, Namor team-up, oh my goodness, bro, you do not want to play into that. So I think Namor is going to be really good. Star-Lord or Quill. Okay, this is an actual interesting one. I've been seeing some crazy ass Quills recently, and I think like he gets his ult up faster than I would think, so I don't play him, but he gets his ult up a lot quicker than I would think he would. And his ult is very impactful. It seems to be extremely impactful right now. I mean, it always has been. Yeah, I don't know. I just think he's a good character. Let me just put it at that. Like, I think on my last tier list, I kind of put him a little bit low, and some people were like, why'd you put him this low? I didn't think he was like as good, but in this one, I like he's a pain in the ass. I'm gonna be completely honest. He is a pain in the ass to deal with, and his ult, just like Punisher ult or like Bucky ult, can really like change the game a lot. So I'm just gonna put him up in excellent A tier. I've seen a lot of good Quills recently, and he's just been popping off. So last one we'll go over in A tier is Squirrel Girl, since we already went over Luna. Squirrel Girl, I think, is like, she got some buffs this season. I think she's really good. I think she's like kind of map specific. Like, she's really good at just doing a ton of damage around corners because her autos are like exploding. Especially in those like corridor maps where like healers want to sit in these back corridors and like heal their tanks that are up front. Squirrel Girl pretty much prevents that and doesn't let that happen. So she puts a lot of pressure onto the backline without actually having to be in their face, which is what I think she's really, really good at doing. And she just does a ton of damage. And she's actually pretty good against dive too. I mean, her root cripple that she has in her kit can be really good against like a BP if you catch him, for example, or someone like that, right? So yeah, I think overall, like, she's got a great kit. They buffed her ult. Her ult's actually pretty decent. Please shoot the ult when you see the ult. A lot of people don't do that. It's hard for me to do it because I'm trying to heal people. If you are a DPS player and you see a Squirrel Girl ult, shoot it. Please just shoot it. It makes it so much less impactful. Just shoot it. But yeah, she's going to be under excellent. I think she's been performing really, really high in my games, both on my team and on the opposite end of my team. She's hard to deal with. I think she's going to be an A tier. And then lastly, we have Luna. We already went over Luna, but Luna's just an alt bot, and her ult's just still really broken. And it's going to counter most of the ults in the game. That's why you want to have Luna on your team. So she's going to be an excellent. Okay, cool. B tier. Adam. Adam's great character. His left shift is really good against dive. His ult's decent, but he doesn't. The reason why he's not in A tier is because he doesn't really have one of those ults that I would consider to be the big healer ults, where it's like, hey, like, you can make your team unkillable for this long. He does have a great res, and I've been able to get some really good Adam ults off. I've seen other Adams been able to get some good Adam ults off too. The thing I've noticed about Adam is two things. One, if you ult in the bad spot, you just cooked your team even more than they were already cooked. The other thing is that if you're already hard losing, so like Adam ult I think is really good if like the fight's kind of neutral but you've lost a few people, and then you Adam ult and it's like, now those people are back, now you can win the fight, right? If the fight is already hard lost, from my experience, and the enemy Adam ults, you just dive that ult and kill everybody again. That's kind of what I've noticed with his ult. I think that's kind of like the issue, the problem with it. Maybe they need to buff it here and there. It also takes a lot of energy to get up. So we talked about energy earlier. His ultimate's like 5,000 energy. It's like the most expensive support ult cost in the game. So there's like some tweaking I think that needs to be with that, but he does a decent amount of damage especially if you hit the right click. And his kit's okay. His healing isn't consistent, right? It has like a bit of a cooldown. So like if you're gonna play Adam, I would pair him with like a big healer like Luna, or Cloak and Dagger or Sue or whoever the case. But I think overall like he's pretty good. Just not excellent. BP, I think he got some like nerfs or whatever the case. I don't see him as much in my games anymore, but whenever I do, he's still super annoying to play against. You just have to have a good Black Panther. That's about it, right? Like, if you do, I think he's super annoying to play against. He's going to be good. Captain America. This character's been on the come up a bit recently. I think he's all right. Like, he's got a kind of like a support stylish ult, right? Like, if you follow the ult, you're gonna get healing or over health is what they call it. Not healing, but you're gonna get shielding pretty much. So it's gonna make you and everybody else tankier. And so it's kind of like a mini support ult in that sense. And he's really good at like annoying the backline and all that kind of stuff. I've seen a couple good Captain Americas actually be the difference maker when it comes to the game. But I can't say the same for everybody. And I've also seen a lot of bad Captain America, so I'm just gonna kind of put him under good because I think he's like decent. Like if you pick him, I'm not gonna roast you for it. I think he's good, but like I just don't think he's gonna be up here, right? Hela, I think is gonna be still a great character. She was S tier last season. Now I think she's gonna be good. She still does a lot of damage. I just think some other characters kind of have taken her spot and outshine her. And also, I think people are just better at playing against her. I think one of the big things too last season is that, and still this season too, but the game just came out. I know there's some betas and stuff like that, but the game just came out. People are still learning how to play against other characters, and especially when characters are typically really, really good in the first season, you play against them so much that you start to find holes in their gameplay, like some weaknesses and flaws. And I think like that's kind of worked with Hela. I mean, Strange, like Doctor Strange now knows to like kind of fly up there and just block Hela, all that kind of jazz. So I think she's good. Not as effective as she was last season, but not bad either. Completely fine with the Hela on my team. Mantis, I think, is also good. I think she gets outshined a lot by all these other healers, so I don't think she's the best. But if, for example, Luna and what's her face? Like multiple healers. Oh yeah, here we go. Luna and Cloak and Dagger are both banned. You don't really have the biggest selection, all right? You have like, okay, let's see what are big healer ults. We have Sue, and then we just have Mantis. And that's pretty much it, right? So I think Mantis is completely fine to go in that situation, but I wouldn't go Mantis if like Sue, Cloak and Dagger, and Luna are all open, if that makes sense. So that's why she's kind of down here. Still think she's a good character, just not as good as these other ones. Mr. Fantastic. So I might get roasted for putting him up here a little bit, but this character would actually be bad, or actually this character would be average if I didn't see a few Mr. Fantastics pop off, especially with like Sue team up. He gets like a lot of damage resistance. Some people have made this character work really, really well. Maybe some of you guys would even put this character under excellent. I don't know what it is. I haven't really played him. He's very tanky. He can be very annoying. His ult can be very annoying. And if you play him correctly, he can just be an all-around super massive nuisance in the game. So I have him under good because I think he is in like that middle ground between being like an actual really good character or just completely dog shit if you can't play him correctly. That kind of goes for most of these characters, I guess, too, but especially him. Iron Fist, I've seen a lot of Iron, just like who was I talking about? Magic. Just like Magic. I've seen Iron Fist kind of come up recently again, and he's super annoying. And he has a random, I don't know why he's a team up with Luna, but he gives Luna like an extra ability, which is actually a pretty cool ability, her C. Yeah, I've seen him on the rise recently. I've been getting dove by some Iron Fists, and it's just really, really hard to. It's just so annoying to deal with that character. It's hard to get him away too. Like if you Sue push him away, like with Sue, I can like push others away. Like Psylocke, for example, it's hard for her to like kind of close that gap on me. If I do that with Iron Fist, he just like flies back to me. Like I don't know. I don't know how this character works, but he seems really hard to kill, and he's super annoying, especially if the enemy team has Magneto and just like shields the Iron Fist. It's just hard to deal with. Spider-Man, I think, is good. Mostly. Like, he's just a good dive character, and I think his ult's decent, but there's nothing too crazy I really have to say about Spider-Man. I just think he has, like, decent dive. But, you know what? I'm going to put him under average. I'm going to put him under average. and then we'll get him up with the team up. But yeah, I think he's all right. Yeah, just nothing else to say about that. Thor, I think, is actually pretty good right now. I think some people would kind of put him on like a lower tier, like C or D. But I think Thor actually does a lot of damage. He's like a dive tank. He's like an assassin tank almost, right? So he's not gonna be like your typical Doctor Strange or like Groot, who's gonna kind of sit in the front lines. But he's gonna like try to go, or he is gonna sit in the front line, but he's gonna sit in the far front line. You know what I'm saying? Like in the enemy back line, trying to kill the healers. So I think Thor actually does a lot of damage. I think he's actually pretty damn good right now. If there was like a rank between B and A, like if I had some between B and A, I put him there. But there isn't. So I think he's in B. He's not quite excellent, but I think he's good for sure. A lot of damage, a lot of annoyances, and okay, I don't know exactly how this works, but with his ult, I know it does like tick damage, right? And then it does like a big burst when he lands. I can't tell if he can one-shot you or not in Luna ult. And the reason why is because I feel like I've been one-shot a couple times. But I've had some friends play Thor, and they've tried doing the same thing, and they say that they can't one-shot a Luna. I don't know who's correct in that situation. Maybe you have to get it like super lucky, like before she full heals to get that slam off. I'm not sure, but she can actually deal with healers pretty well if he actually can one-shot them. So I think that's good. And then Iron Man, we already went over Iron Man. Think he's good. He's literally an S tier if he has Hulk team up because of the gamma ray stuff. It just kills everybody. Under average, we have Jeff. I think Jeff's a pretty good character. I've seen some flanking Jeffs recently. I don't know who started that trend. Hasn't really worked in my games. Maybe like one time there was one game where flanking Jeff actually kind of shit on us. But Jeff's just an average character. I think Jeff has his good picks right on some maps, like he can throw people off. He's actually a really good pick in the Sue, in my opinion. I'm not saying like play Jeff if they have a Sue, like there's other things to play. But if the enemy does have a Sue, Jeff's pretty decent because everybody has to stand in Sue ult, right? It's static, it doesn't move. So Jeff comes in there, literally just sweeps in and eats everybody that's inside the ult because he knows everybody's going to be playing that ult, and then he can kind of throw them off the edge or do whatever the case he wants to do with them. But yeah, I think Jeff is just average. Hawkeye is also average. Hawkeye was another S tier character last season, but he's average now. I think the big thing is I'm not a Hawkeye player, but I believe they made it so his bow takes longer to charge up for that one-shot headshot. So he still one-shots. That didn't go away, but it just takes longer. And if you do see an enemy Hawkeye, you just pick some dive-oriented characters, and you can dive him. He's not the best at dealing with dive. And so you just dive him and you just kill him. So he really got knocked down pretty hard after those nerfs and stuff like that. Next one up is Penny. Listen, I don't know what to say about this character. Penny, I don't like having a Penny on my team, I'm gonna be completely honest, but Penny does have their things. First of all, you have that cool little TikTok clip that came out that I somehow got caught into. But the other thing too is that Penny has good anti-dive potential, so I think Penny is more of a defensive tank, right? You want to pick them on defense if they have a lot of dive. Your backline, your healers can play in the Penny mines. It actually helps them out quite a bit. I don't think Penny's a good attack tank. Please stop picking her on attack. I lose with her every single time I have her on attack. Don't do it. But yeah, she's just going to be average. I think she has like specific situations, again, against dive where she can be actually really good. But besides that, she's pretty niche. Next up, we have Psylocke. So Psylocke is, I think Psylocke's actually pretty good. I'll put her under good. No, I'm gonna put her under average. Here's why. Psylocke to me right now just seems like an alt bot. I mean, that's kind of that's what Psylocke seems like. There are cases where she can one shot you. It doesn't really happen too much, but like if she's on point, she can, or like one combo you. But Psylocke for the most part is an alt bot. The problem is we're in a triple support meta. There's a lot of supports that as long as they don't overlap alts and use their alts correctly, someone's going to have alt for Psylocke alt. You can say like, oh, Psylocke just got that support alt, but it's like, okay, but now you're just Psylocke without support or without an alt. It doesn't really feel as good. She still feels kind of impactful in my games here and there, but it's much scarier to me to go up against like a Magic or a even like an Iron Fist and a Psylocke. Like I feel like I can deal with Psylocke as a support. I can deal with Psylocke really well. Like I've been able to 1v1 solo a lot of Psylocks as say Cloak and Dagger, but I can't really do that against Magic. So that's kind of that's kind of where I would put Psylocke. I'd say like she's average, but she's average mainly because there's better dive characters than her, in my opinion. But like she's not bad, right? And then we already went over Raccoon. and Scarlet. Scarlet, I think a lot of people have Scarlet under bad. I'm never actually under average because Scarlet also has a one-shot ult, but it's more telegraphed, right? It's like she's screaming like the chaos line and everybody just runs for the hills, books it, or puts up shields, that kind of jazz. But Scarlet, I have seen her be able to fill that void if, say, Magneto gets banned, or we just don't have a Magneto. I've been able to see Scarlet fill that void of like, hey, I can one-shot ult somebody. Now, I don't know why you would pick her over Iron Man, but say, for example, if Luna's ulting, you can try to counter Scarlet ult, that Luna ult, and if she has nowhere to go, nothing to hide behind, Scarlet can actually kill her, and a whole bunch of people trying to send the Luna ult. So there's some play to what Scarlet can do. I don't think there's too much play, but there's some, right? And that's why I have her under average instead of bad. So that's why I would have her there. And then we already went over Spidey. Last but not least, stop picking Black Widow in my games, man. Like, just stop doing it. She's not that good. I've seen one Black Widow pop off, and even when he was popping off, they still lost the game. In fact, this guy was popping off so much, I said, watch, they're still going to complain that he was playing Black Widow, even though because they lost, even though this guy was popping off. And what happened? Messages in game chat, reporter Black Widow, reporter Black Widow. There's just some negative stigma around this character. She's just not that good. Hopefully they never let her sniper one-shot headshot. If they do, I think she would actually shoot up the ranks like crazy. She'd be like super high, but yeah, she's not that good. Don't pick her. There's no reason to. All you Black Widow mains out there, I'm sorry. This tier list isn't changing for you guys. I apologize. But yeah, these are the characters that I think are going to be like, well, where they're at, right? S through F. If you guys like the tier list, let's go. If you guys didn't, let me know down below, like what you would change, you know, if anything about the tier list, and we can start a discussion. But in any case, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and until the next one, see ya.